Hey, it's Ed with Slow Car Fix. Today I'm going to work towards getting my outer wheel well things done on my 55 Chevy. First I have to paint the inner quarters, seam seal where my welds are, and clean and prep and get everything ready to go. So some of the products I'm going to use today are, and I've never used this before, some brush-on seam sealer by Dominion Sure Seal. I've always used the stuff in the caulking tube, but I've got some big seams, and the stuff in the caulking tube is pretty expensive. This wasn't bad. This was like $30 for a can. So normally I would snap off a tape line, run the bead of caulking seam sealer, and spread it with my fingers, and then pull the tape line off while it's kind of tacky, and that would give me a nice straight line. But I'm not really worried about that on the inner quarters. I'm also going to use this other Dominion Sure Seal stuff, this Ultimate Rust Preventative Coating. It's like a POR 15, but it's the Canadian version. It's a little cheaper, and I have better luck with it than I do with POR 15. The other thing I got is some non-paintable rubberized undercoat. So this is going to go sort of last on some different areas. And then I've got another different brand, same stuff. Got some foam brushes that probably aren't going to work, and some cheap throwaway brushes. You don't want to try and reuse the brushes when you're using this stuff because it's just not going to work. So the first thing I got to do is just go in there and knock off any highs on the welds on the inside of the quarter where I welded the quarter on with a grinder and a flap wheel. Just kind of rough that up. The rest of the inside of the panel I've already cleaned. And then I guess the first step is the seam seal. So what I'm doing with the seam seal is on the back side of this quarter panel where this old panel meets this new panel, I'm going to seal the whole seam where all the welds are. I've got some welds here that I'm going to seal, but mostly what I'm concerned with is around the wheelhouse and where I can't get to once that inner wheelhouse is on, because that is what is going to be in my way. So I want to do it now, get it out of the way, be able to put my inner wheelhouse in, and then anything else like in here, I can get at that later because I can get at it from the inside. Same thing with back there, I can get at it from underneath. So it's just the middle that I'm really concerned with, because I may still have some welding to do here if I adjust the door gaps and stuff like that. The inside of this panel on the bottom is just the same material. It's the same bare metal. So I'm going to use the DOM 16 on that, and then it'll be up here that will ultimately, well, the whole thing will probably get that rubberized stuff, but on the inside of this is going to get the DOM 16. That just goes on with a brush, and it makes a mess on the floor. And I've used it on, you can see that's what that is there. So eventually I have to do the whole floor that way, and I have to do all my new one-piece floor with that. And then the whole thing underneath will look like that shiny, nice black stuff. Okay, so I didn't show you putting on the seam sealer, but I like it. So I'll probably show you another spot where I put on the seam sealer. I really like this brushable stuff. Let me show you what it turned out like, and then I got to get into painting. I left it for about an hour, went into town and came back, and let me show you where I'm at with it. So you can see seams are sealed. So any of my welds, I obviously didn't do up there because, as I mentioned, I'll get at that later. Any of my welds are all sealed, so they're not going to rust. This has just got a bit of like surface stuff on it. I've already wire brushed it and scraped it down. It just looks a little rough in contrast to this shiny new panel. So I'm going to paint this panel now, and I'm going to paint up where the seam seal is. And then what I'll do is I'll spray the rubberized stuff. Right now, I'm only going to focus on painting where this wheel well is going to go because I kind of want to get started on getting this wheel well in place. Okay, so I painted everything. I seam sealed it, painted it with DOM16, and then went over it with rubberized undercoat. And I think it looks pretty good. I've been playing with these wheel wells and trying to figure out how these outer wheel wells go with the rubber seal. And I think I've got it figured out. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure. I might have to paint some of them first. I also have to grind off some of the paint that I put on the wheel tubs when I did the wheel tub repairs a few dozen videos ago. So I can tack these things in place. But let me show you what I've sort of figured out. It's probably not right. So don't take this as a DIY, take this as a, this is what Ed's doing, and go from there. Let me show you what I think I've figured out, and right or wrong, this is the way I'm gonna do it. So, okay, so this is the little pile of crap that I've saved because, that I've cut out of the car because, well, let's just look at it. I've saved these because I want to save these hinges. This is part of the four-door thing from when I converted it. I saved this tail pan piece that was all non-existent on both ends because, mostly because I want to cut this thing off and I need to get the measurement from center to center. Then I'll cut this guy off and weld it on the tail pan. This is the passenger side one. I saved this because this shows me how, this is the driver's side. This shows me how this goes. So it shows me, I can see the embossed stamp here lines up with this aftermarket piece. I can see this tab here and this tab here line up, and this notch and that notch line up. I believe that, yeah, so this is, that goes like that. And then the rubbers were 4-piece. There was one large piece, which I'll show you in a sec, and this piece here. This piece here is, it's not slotted, like it doesn't slide on, so I'm gonna have to like rivet that on or screw it on or do something. Factory is these wire staple deals. Factory is these wire staples. So let me show you the other part. This is the big part. This part here, the best I can tell, is the drain that's at the back of the rocker. So the front of the rocker has this hole and a rubber plug and a drain. And the back of the rocker that goes into the wheel well will be this, right? And then this, you can see it separates, so it just slides onto this longer metal piece. And this actually overlaps and goes some onto the next piece. This one I think has to go in first. So when I hold this up in place, I can see where I've got to grind out. My paint isn't exactly dry, so there's a little bit of crap on there. But I think what I've got to do now is I'm going to have to pull this rubber off because I want to seal all this, right? I'm going to have to pull this rubber off and put some paint behind it. And I think I might do that rubberized stuff and just spray the rubberized stuff on there. Then I'm going to slide this back on, and I'm hopeful that that'll act as sort of an adhesive to hold that on. I should probably be putting some sort of spray adhesive on there or some brush-on adhesive, but I don't have any. And I kind of want to get this tacked in today. I'm not going to weld this all the way along. Like, I don't think that's how it was anyways. It's hard to tell because it just kind of fell off. Actually, I can tell. Man, I'm making a lot of noise. So it looks like it was maybe just spot welded on in a few spots. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I won't spot weld it. I'll put like a 2-inch stitch. And then what I'll do is I'll take that, my new favorite brush-on seam sealer, and I'll probably snap a tape line and brush on some seam sealer, and then this whole thing will get painted. The top side I can get from up through the wheel well. See, like this, like this. Up through the wheel well, through the back of the car, in the back seat, I can get in and paint probably up to here. And behind, between the taillight and the wheel well, I can get the other way. To get the top side, to paint it with that DOM stuff. The underside, obviously, I'll just get from the bottom. This is the real reason, one of the main reasons I wanted to get the body off the chassis, so I could do these without the axle in the way and without having to drop the axle out of the way. So I'll mock this up, get it sort of in place, and I'll show you what I'm looking at, and then I'm going to pull it back out, paint the edges, grind what I need to grind, and get it ready to stitch it in. And then I'll stitch this one in first, that one in next, and then the little guy on the end. And that'll be one side. Okay, so you can see this is the front, that's the back of the rocker there. The rubber seal, obviously I got to push it over a little bit and get it a little tighter, but that's how it's going to go. You can see where my repair was, and this goes all the way across. So what I'm going to have to do is I'll have to sort of get it in place at the bottom. It has to, I can't do everything at once here, so it's way to the right of where it's supposed to be. So I'll have to push it in to the left, tack it in place, and just sort of work my way up. Obviously I have to take the paint off that I put on the tubs, and yeah, and I'll just work my way across and then add the next piece and carry on. You can see what my inner wheel well turned out like. So that's it, or sorry, my inner quarter panel. That's the seam where the new quarter meets the old quarter. Gone over with seam sealer, painted with DOM 16, and then rubberized. You can see I got a run or two, but I don't really care about that. But it kind of, you can't really tell. Well, you can tell, but like it's all sealed up, it's protected, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to spray the edges of that, put that rubber thing on there, and then come back here and do some grinding, and then hold and tack and hold and tack and hold and tack. Right now I'm holding the camera and holding this inner quarter and losing my breath. So I'm going to stop doing that now. Okay, so that piece is in and tacked in. This other piece here, I'm just going to attach this rubber to it. I'm going to clamp it in place, drill some holes and pop rivet it. I got to look through, and I think I got rivets here somewhere. I don't usually use rivets very much, but I'll pop rivet this on. I'll do the same thing. I'll spray the rubberized undercoat on it, then pop rivet it, just so there's no bare metal. That's what I'm doing there, is I'm just trying to make it so there's no bare metal. And also, that really worked on that other piece. When I did that edge here and slid that other piece on top of it, when that rubberized undercoat got sort of sticky, it held that in place, and that rubber's not going anywhere. I pulled on it and tugged on it, and now it's also wedged in between the quarter and that new piece, that new outer wheel well, so it's not going anywhere. So that's good news. I also I'm not sure, but I might just spray the whole thing with rubberized undercoat and not do the DOM 16 on it, because it's just easier for access, and that rubberized undercoat's covering it pretty well. It was more important to me on the inside of the quarters where I had welds and stuff, but I'm going to seam seal where I weld this on. The only thing with this one is I'm going to have fun with this, because this flange here, this is for a correct 55 Chevy, and mine, the wheel tubs are in the right spot, but the outer part is all new metal, and that's not necessarily the right curvature or the right shape. So I have to, I'll probably have to hammer this to fit the car, which is fine.
Keep on driving and driving along the road tonight. Lost my head over my back between the jars and bottle jack. Just me and all the red lights. Keep on driving and driving. In the heat from a hot California, I forgot how you look like in rain. I swear I never thought it would matter. If I'm gone by now, all my weakness keep on linger on repeat like it will be my favorite song. Oh, I know I should be moving on, but you got me good, you got me good. I keep on driving till it bends, still it feels like I pretend. Keep on driving and driving along the road tonight. Lost my head over my back between the jars and bottle jack. Just me and all the red lights. Keep on driving and driving.
Hey, so wheel wells in. I look like I'm illuminated here. So it's not perfect. Nothing is. Life isn't. I'm not. Sure as hell I'm not. Anyways, I've got the one side welded in. I'm just about out of welding gas. I've got it tacked. Let me show you. I've got it, it's welded on the back side. Some of these welds aren't the prettiest because I'm hanging upside down and on my knees and whatever else, but they're not bad actually. So the other side is welded. It's from where I could reach from the back. It's welded here. It's welded together, kind of bubble gummed. I gotta smooth that out, clean that up a little bit. Stitched all the way across down here, like 2-inch stitches at a time. All the way across. You can see that this is all sealed here. What I gotta do though, because I was looking at this and trying to decide how this went down here, and when I pushed this in far enough to put this quarter right in flush with this, it looked wonky on the outside, so I'm not into wonky. The car's wonky enough. So I marked it and I put it where I thought it ought to be, and that's fine. So what I'm gonna do now, and you can see I actually ground off some of my paint because I was planning on welding this to that. So what I'm gonna do though is I'll take a piece of my cut off rubber, and after I'm done all this crap, I will add a little piece of rubber right here later on, just to seal that up. Probably I have some cut-offs from this, and I'll have some cut-offs from the other side when I get to it. But you see this mounts on the back side of the panel, which is, I didn't think, that's counterintuitive. I thought it would go sort of fit together and butt on the bottom, but it doesn't. If you look at the factory piece, for those of you that are attempting this fiasco, it actually overlaps some. You can see it overlaps about an inch, and it's spot welded in there. Now mine's welded all the way across on the other side, but it's spot welded in here, and it overlaps about an inch, which is about what I'm overlapped now, so that's not bad. And as long as this side in here lines up, and then there's a little tab that kind of hangs off of here that's gone on this, that attaches to the quarter panel. And one would think, see this one's, maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong, but this one, see if I can show you, the rubber protrudes further than this. I thought this should tack to the inside of the quarter panel, but I guess maybe it doesn't because this rubber goes here. But what I'm going to do is, so I don't have the little gap that's there, I'll just put a piece of rubber in there. That'll all be fine. So my next step is I'm just going to run a grinder over a couple of spots, anything that's high, anything that looks not my favorite. There's only just really the one spot that's kind of a little bit of boogery because I was upside down and backwards and everything else. You can see what I mean. This is what I was talking about it not fitting quite right because my metal is new. So somebody mentioned that I should cut these tubs out and have them free, which doesn't make any sense to me because these tubs haven't changed. These tubs are in the factory location. The only repairs I did on these tubs are on this upper lip here. Where they attach right here is in the correct location, like they didn't move. I had to repair the rot on the inside, and I had to rebuild all in here, and all the way, you can see where my weld line is, and all this is new. But this tub itself didn't change location. Just the outside of this might not be the right shape. Well, it isn't the right shape because it's what I made. It's not what was factory. So you can see it kind of dips in here a little bit and stuff like that. But I don't care because as long as I had enough to secure it properly, because it was only spot welded from factory anyways, I've got like 10 inches of weld on this thing. So it's way stronger than factory would have been. So what I'll do is now I will liberally apply seam seal to that, spray this all with rubberized undercoat, and Bob's your uncle. You'll never notice a difference. It'll look like, not like factory, but it'll look presentable, clean, strong, all those good things. I'm happy with how it's turning out so far. I was able to get some good strength, decent welds in there. Here a little bubble gummy, but not bad. It's a very awkward position because I'm kind of on my knees and halfway up. That's the downfall of these scissor lifts, is you don't get proper access to everything. So I'm going to clean this up with the grinder, and then I'll bring you back to show you that brush on seam seal because I really like that stuff. And this is the first time I've used it. Had I have known that it existed, it could have saved me a lot of trouble on my Malibu and on my 57 truck and on Cutlass I did for my dad one time, and because those vehicles took some seam seal. So, all right, I'll get that. I'll clean this up. I'll bring you back when I'm seam sealing. Okay, I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. It's not factory, but it's definitely it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So this is what that stuff looks like in the can. I've never used it before. I'm sure lots of you guys have seen it before. I'm sure there's lots of products that I haven't seen before. But this seam seal, I've used seam seal, as I mentioned before. Seam seal is your friend. I used seam seal with the caulking tube before, like tons and tons and tons of times. I go through cases of it. But never once have I used the brushable stuff. So it's very handy. And just for those of you that think, you know, I'm just like caulking a bathtub here or something and that the factory didn't have seam seal, just come with me. That's all this stuff here. All this stuff here, that's all seam seal. It's all this stuff here. It's the same stuff, right? It's the same stuff. I've always applied it with a caulking tube and never with brush on stuff. You see, it's all the same, it's everywhere. I've always applied it, don't look at the corner of my door. I've always applied it with this Proform, rubber-based, whatever. But this stuff's like $18 Canadian a tube, which is a lot. That whole can of that stuff over there is $33. So, and it's a lot easier to use for stuff like this where I'm not really that fussy on how it goes on as long as it seals it up. So I sprayed it with that rubberized undercoat. By the way, keep your mask on with this rubberized undercoat stuff. With all this stuff, it's not good to breathe in. It's aired out a little bit here, so my mask is off. You got to have your PPE. Make sure that your personal protective equipment, in case you don't get that acronym. Make sure you look after yourself, because if you want to be able to do this for years, you kind of got to look after yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. All right, safety minute over. Let's look at what I got done here. Look at this. So this is that rubberized undercoat stuff sprayed on here. You can see the seam seal. Sealed, seamed, and you can't even really see it because it's all hidden underneath there. And it just stops crap from getting in between the panels. There wasn't a whole lot of seam seal on the factory one. There wasn't a whole lot of seam seal on this factory piece. You can see there's like bits and pieces. There's some in here. So I've done that. Also, if you look in through my tail light, you can see it's all painted in there. I haven't got up to here yet because I still have some playing to do to make this tail light fit the way I like. It fits, but I would like it to fit better. And then we'll just look at it from the inside. You can see that sort of ties everything together. Obviously, I still have to, this is the seam here that I was trying to seal. I still have to seam seal that and do all this stuff here, but I still have more work to do in this area, so I'm not really worried about it. But now you can see how I've got that, and it looks sort of like, maybe like it's going to be solid and okay. The other side, I still have to, I don't have the wheel well installed yet. It's sitting on the floor. But it's all painted and it's seam sealed up to where I need, and it's drying. But as I mentioned, I'm out of welding gas, and to be honest, I'm out of gas. This awkward positions, look at my face, wow. These awkward positions and being underneath the car and on my knees and stuff, my knees aren't the best. So being underneath the car, sort of half bent up and cobbled up, one side is enough for today. So I'm gonna end it here. You can see how I did it. Right or wrong, that's the way it's done on this car, and I'm happy. I think it's going to be great. I'm just happy that it seals all up. I've also read that some people don't even install this outer wheelhouse thing. They just leave it wide open. I don't see how that could be. But I know some people don't. I notice on a lot of the other videos I've seen where people do 4-door to 2-door conversions, that's not even mentioned. It's just like the door jamb is still on the inside with the striker on it and everything for the four-door. I'm not trying to fool anyone. This is a four-door that I've turned into a two-door, but I still want it to be as strong and sealed up and tight as I possibly can. I took some things off my list. You guys saw me make a list if you watched my last video. The inner rockers are all welded. I've mounted I put on the fender mount on the outside of the rockers. And what else did I do? I guess that's it. I still have this toe board here. I'm going to cut out and replace a little piece in here. Tie it into the one-piece floor. Weld that all across. This is another example of where I've full welded that. That was spot welded from factory. I've full welded it all the way across. So where I've full welded that, I'll just go over that with that brushable seam seal, and then I'll paint the whole floor inside and out. Underneath, I can use it on right here on this lip. All that good stuff. It's paintable. It's good. I'm quite happy to have discovered that I don't have to give myself arthritis with or tendonitis or some sort of itis with a caulking gun. It'll be good for like in here too, where I've got that's all welded. It'll be good for in there. Any seams that you want to seal, it'll seal them. So that's good. It's amazing what you get excited over on a project like this. I'm excited over some stupid product like seam seal. A couple weeks ago I was excited about my hood bird. Anyways, thanks for watching. Check out my other videos. There's like 120 other videos of this car and other cars and all kinds of things. Hope everyone's doing well, and I'll catch you on the next one.